Hi, this is Vicious Animal Thing. Today I'm replacing the linkage for the anti-sway bar on the front suspension of a 2005 Ford Ranger two-wheel drive. Recently I'd noticed a clunking sound occasionally coming from the front passenger side of the vehicle, and I just happened to inspect it real quick and I saw that the linkage was broken. This is the removed linkage from the passenger side of the vehicle, and what I had noticed was this was really sticking out. Here's a sway bar kit that I'm going to use instead of Motorcraft products. It's Master Pro, and I bought these at O'Reilly. I don't know if Master Pro is an O'Reilly brand. It just happens to be a closed store for me, so that's why I generally go there. It was $11.99 for each, and that is the actual SKU SK7275 for a Ford Ranger. Comes with a small guide to just help determine what is the correct tightness for the bolt so that you're not over compressing the bushings. I look for it to be a fairly simple job to install. So here I am with the vehicle jacked up, and always follow recommended safety procedures when working on your vehicle. There's a lot of danger involved. Always follow recommendations such as using jack stands and things along those lines. While you have the wheel off and are working on this, there's opportunity to look for other parts that might be damaged or worn or needing replaced. One thing you can do is also check your brake pads and brake conditions and just that kind of thing, so that way you're more aware of what's going on with your vehicle. So here I have the new link just about in place. What I did is I used a pry bar to pry up the sway bar, because when these bushings are uncompressed, it's greater than the amount of space that is between the sway bar and the lower control arm. So to remedy that, I just use this pry bar and pry it up against it. You do want to be very careful and know what you're prying against. In this case, I know that I'm prying against my coil spring in there, and I'm most likely not going to damage it to any extent that it's going to need replaced or anything along those lines. Not really sure how a professional mechanic might do this. So after getting that initially installed, I just used my small sledgehammer there and pounded the bolt up through, and now I'm ready to tighten it down. I got the nut off the bottom here, and then somehow I got to get the top off. Well, instead of trying to use some kind of technique where I'm holding this in place, where I didn't have the option on the other side, I used a high-speed drill and drilled through the bolt here. So here's the end result of my drill technique. As you can see, I drilled the hole through it, and then all I had to do was use my channel lock pliers to grab onto that and finish breaking that bolt through. This technique worked really well. Obviously it is destructive. The tools I used were a trouble light, a sledgehammer to help knock a couple things loose and help drive the screws through the new links. I used a couple C-clamps to help me unbolt the driver's side link, because it's just so difficult to do. What I ended up doing, if you can kind of imagine, the nut is here. So I clamped this on so that the C-clamp itself was actually holding this into place, and then I could concentrate on the top nut. Well, in this case it actually unloosened this nut first, and then what I had to do was use a high-speed drill and drill through the top bolt, because it was much easier than trying to use the channel locks like I did on the passenger side. Keep in mind, on the passenger side I didn't have a choice because the screws had broken, so I did what I had to. But this actually ended up working very well, and I would recommend trying to improvise something along these lines if you need to. 15mm and 16mm sockets, or wrenches if you like wrenches, for the factory installed links. The bottom screw is 15mm, the top screw is a 16mm. The aftermarket one that I happened to buy, the screw part was 16mm, and the nut was 18mm, and then I used the 19mm socket for my lug nuts. More than likely a 3/8 inch socket, a 1/2 inch socket, a pair of pliers, channel lock type pliers. Some WD-40 might help you with rusty bolts. I don't tend to have too much luck with it, but if it helps, it helps. And then some kind of pry bar. I use the top to my jack handle and I will put a ratchet in it like this. Just gives me a little more leverage. You'll need to be able to jack the vehicle up somehow, so some kind of jack, and of course you can see I'm using jack stands for safety reasons. And of course I use safety glasses. If you have air tools available, a large impact wrench might help make this an easier task. I have a smaller one and it wasn't able to budge that nut at all. This is Vicious Animal Thing with another vehicle related project, and if you have any questions, please post and I'll do my best to answer you. If you have any other suggestions or any tips that you see in here that you think might work better or do work better, let me know and maybe I'll include them in my future videos. Thanks for watching.